Hey everyone, welcome to the Digital EDU Dialogues podcast, where we talk about what's trending in higher education issues and we offer practical solutions. I'm Angela Britcher, and today joining me is Kim McNutt. Kim is the Dean of the College of Continuing and Professional Education at California State University, Dominguez Hills. Welcome, Kim.
Angela, thank you. It's been a joy talking to you ahead of time, and also I'm so excited that we're sharing this time together. So thank you.
We are so excited that you are here to talk about how you have built such a successful continuing education program, the role that the program plays at the institution, and maybe what other institutions could learn from that. And I can't wait till we get to it, how you are re-engaging students. So let's get started with hearing about the success of your program at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I love when we talked before we got started, you called the program the Swiss Army knife, or iPhone, more modern reference, of higher education. So give us an overview of the program and how it works and why you call it the Swiss Army knife.
Thanks, Angela. So yes, my college is the College of Continuing and Professional Education at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Geographically, we're about 15 miles due south of Los Angeles, so we're in a major urban environment here. My college is a real college. I tell people that all the time. A lot of folks in continuing ed, they're a division of or a unit or other monikers that they go by, but we are a full-blown college. And so we do offer a range of academic and non-credit training programs for the working adult, the working professional, the lifelong learner. So we offer master's degrees for professionals for career advancement. We offer a couple of undergraduate degree completion programs. And then we also offer a myriad of non-credit certificates for upskilling and reskilling. And you're right, I used to call us the Swiss Army knife of higher ed, but I realize as I'm talking to younger people now, they go, what is a Swiss Army knife? So I would grab my iPhone and say, well, we are the iPhone of higher ed. And what I mean by that is, for the most part, you can get pretty much everything you need right from one place. Like your iPhone is your, when you go to the airport, it's your ticket, it's your calendar, it's your phone, it's camera, everything. It's all in one place. So I want to be that for higher education, meaning that people can come to one college, whether they need to finish their degree, whether they need to complete a master's degree in systems engineering or cybersecurity or orthotics and prosthesis, or just a short course in training for project management or Lean Six Sigma or digital marketing or whatever that might be. We even have a program in casino management because Las Vegas is just about 3 hours from here. So again, I want to be the one-stop shop. I want to be the top of mind entity where people can come over the course of their life in the sense of, you and I talked before too, K through 100 used to be where in that 40-year window that people are working, I want to be able to meet all of their needs. And then we also have a program at the back end called the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. It's a program for retirees who still want to be engaged and want to continue learning. So again, the full spectrum. I'm just so pleased and thrilled of what we do and how we are able to meet the learners where they are.
And as we've talked about this, just the breadth of programs that you offer. So you're offering short courses for working professionals, you're offering master's degrees, continuing education programs. One of the things that you had said is that one of the roles that you play is to kind of be the test kitchen as well for the school. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks again for that. And I started using that more recently as well, because when you think of a test kitchen, it's a place for experimentation. I'm not a cook myself, I'm not a chef, but I like that analogy because it really is what we do in our continuing ed space. So we are able to, because we are the entrepreneurial arm of the university too, we can pilot new things. We can try new recipes, new curriculum, new short courses, new particular topics or subject areas that the university really can't take on because they're resource constrained. I want to back up a minute because we're also a self-support university, meaning we're like a small educational enterprise. So students choose to take courses through us. We don't receive any state allocation from the state of California or Governor Newsom or the chancellor's office in Long Beach, or my president doesn't say, hey, Kim, here's $15 million, run your college for the year. So the money that we generate comes from people enrolling in our programs. So that also gives us a little bit of flexibility in being the test kitchen of the university where we can pilot and experiment. We do a lot of needs assessment analysis. We look at MZ Lightcast data. We look at employment data. We look at what's trending and say, you know what, we should be developing a certificate in that particular space. And sometimes we're not successful. Just like in the kitchen, you might bake a cake and the cake falls, right? but we want a high success rate where 90% of the time we want that cake to be wonderful and full and tasty and all of that. So I like to use that analogy because we are the place for experimentation. And then just like in industry, we stand up programs, we run them in our college for a while, and then we spin them off to main campus so that we give them life. And then it's incumbent upon me and my team to develop new programs or develop new recipes.
It sounds like such an agile way. When we think of higher education, we often think that it is a slow moving ship, takes a while to make turns, but you sound like such a nimble and agile part of the university system.
A really good point. And I wanted to say that, yes, we still have a lot of administrative barriers dealing when we interact. And I'll refer to it as stateside. That's where they're state funded. And of course, I refer to us as the self-support arm. So we made a lot of headway, and we are more nimble. We are very autonomous, again, in how our budgeting structure is. The people I hire, I never have to get permission to hire, a new registration associate. I just hired a new video production person to augment our marketing team. But we still have to interact with the main campus, the registrar, admissions, HR, procurement, all of those things. And so I really have spent the last 9 years here really trying to improve business processes, lower administrative barriers, reduce administrative barriers, so that we can better serve our learner. I want to make sure that at the end of the day, it's not about me or my college, but it's how can we serve the learner? And as you know, with all the competition out there, with Southern New Hampshire University, you've got ASU, you've got WGU, formerly University of Phoenix, these big behemoths that operate these large online program management companies and offer programs. And it's a competitive world out there. So we want to make sure that we provide the learner not only the education that they want and desire for upskilling, reskilling, social mobility, economic mobility, but we also want to make sure that we are customer service oriented. And that's been my mantra here too, that every student that walks in my door is basically a customer. And a lot of our faculty don't like hearing that. They say, well, my students aren't customers. What are you talking about? And I said, they are. They have choices. Here in the LA area, I have 5 CSUs that I compete with. I have USC up the road, UCLA Extension, National University to the south, Fullerton, all the online programs. So yes, unless we provide an outstanding experience in education and training, but also customer service, we won't win. And so we do have to break through barriers, but I think we're starting to shift the mindset of a lot of our campus partners, whatever department, that they have to realize, yes, we have to provide a better experience for our student/customer.
I agree with this idea that students are our customers, right? I refer to them that way too, maybe because my background is marketing and communication as well as being a faculty. But when we look at them that way, I think we show up with a different kind of service. It's not I'm putting information on you. It's how do I show up and be in service to meet your needs and meet your demands in the marketplace.
Well, that really helps too, because just like in the corporate world or in the service industry world, then you develop brand loyalty. If a student has a good experience, they come here, they get a quality education or quality training at a reasonable cost, they had a great experience, well, they're going to come back. I'm going to be top of mind. So they'll come to CCPE, the acronym for our college, time and time again, circling back to what I said earlier, because I want them back over a 40 or 50 year life cycle. I don't want this to be transactional where they come in, take a class, and I never see them again. So it all starts when they first walk in the door. I just recently, Angela, we refurbished and remodeled my registration unit in our building here because they are the front door to our students. It was a 20-year-old facility. The furniture was kind of dilapidated. The carpet was threadbare, and they had some old file cabinets. So we completely gutted it, remodeled it. It's clean, it's modern, it's fresh. It's a very welcoming experience. So when people walk in, it's like, wow, this is really nice. And I even had some of my staff in my administration building where I am now, they'd say, well, hey, what about us? When are we going to get our building refurbed? And I said, well, we're not exactly student facing here, and at some time we will. But for starters, let's remodel our registration office. So even little things like that, I think, make a big difference.
Absolutely. Along the lines of that, let's talk about the idea of digital badging and credentialing, because as you and I have talked, this is something that meets that modern student and modern adult learners' needs in the workplace. So share with everyone about this idea of digital badging.
It's one of my topics that are very near and dear to my heart. And so I started looking into that digital badging, micro-credentials around 2017, but specifically focusing on digital badging. And meaning, we all know what badging is in the military, or if you were a Boy Scout or Girl Scout, when you had some level of accomplishment or achievement, you received a badge when it signified that achievement. Well, this is very similar, only in the higher ed space. So when someone completes a project management course or a construction management course or a program or an OSHA program, they receive a digital badge for completion. And what I really want to use that digital badge for, and what we're using it for, is to be a vessel of information for the student, meaning that the metadata is involved. So when you click on the badge after it's awarded, it opens up and it shows you what the student learning outcomes were, the course outline, course description, the competencies and skills that students learned in the class. And then that can be shared with employers. It can be shared if they wanted to attend another university or advance into a master's degree. It's an ability for students to showcase their level of achievement. And when I first started in this space, a lot of people said, well, it's the gamification of higher ed, and well, that's where digital natives are these days, as you know. Students expect when we even have an esports certificate for gamers. That's what they expect. They want to get a digital badge as they achieve different levels of achievement. So again, we might as well meet the students where they are. If they want a digital badge, guess what? I'm going to provide that. But more importantly, the end game and what we're experimenting with now is the comprehensive learning record, or the learner employment record. It goes by a lot of different monikers. I presented in Boulder, Colorado this past July at a badging summit. So there's a lot of interest around this. So the next step for me is to have a one-stop place for students to be able to have a repository, not just of non-credit training programs, but their transcripts, their university transcripts, anything that they have done in education and training. They should be able to store and have sole sovereign ownership of that, and then be able to share that anytime they need with potential employers, as they say, of hire me because I have these particular skills. And as you and I talked in our pre-interview, when I look at my own experience on my undergraduate transcripts, I got a B in history, U.S. history. And I can't remember what I learned in that. I can't remember but it would be great to be able to click on that, and it opens up and it says, you took this history class and this is what you learned. This were the learning outcomes. And it would jog my memory. But now all I see is a letter grade and a course description. So that's really my end game. And that's hopefully what I want as my legacy, is that to be a pioneer in this space and to get more people to buy in that. We're working with our university registrar to buy into this, to get their mind wrapped around and moving beyond the paper transcript, and the digital credential that way, to say the digital badge also can supplement the degree. I tell students all the time, come in, take some additional certificates, because it's going to supplement the degree that you earn and help, and it'll put you in front of the line when you go out and interview for a job. If I'm looking at somebody that has a degree, but someone that has a degree in all these certificates, I'm more likely to hire that other person because of the extra value that they will bring to my place of employment.
One of the things I like about this, a phrase that you used was a digital passport. And what I liked about that was to kind of go back to what you talked about in the beginning, the idea that I could store all of these credentials and my transcripts, perhaps in my wallet, right here on my phone. And I think about how many times I need to present my transcripts for something or for a school that I'm working with. And each time I think, oh my gosh, where are they? And I always end up just, going online and requesting them from my schools again. And how much easier it would be to have those. And I just really appreciate the phrase, to have ownership over our accomplishments and over our work. So I think even as a not so modern student, but as an employee and an employer, this is going to be really valuable to people moving forward. So with that, we are going to take a 30-second break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the re-engagement program and that idea of once a Toro, always a Toro. So we'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Professor Services. Looking for a job in teaching? Need to expand your network? Want to boost your income? Whatever it is, the expert team at Professor Services has you covered. From helping higher ed faculty find new jobs, to essential tools such as cover letters and CVs, to applying to jobs for you, Professor Services equips you to nail your job search. Don't stress over the job hunt. Maximize your potential and crush your next opportunity with support from our team of experienced administrators, mentors, and educators. Discover how the team at Professor Services can help. Visit professorservices.com today to get started and kickstart your career in higher education.
Welcome back. I am Angela Richard. I'm talking with Kim McNutt today from Cal State Dominguez Hills. And you have had a very successful re-engagement program. Tell us about this program and the kinds of work that you're doing with students.
Yes, Angela. So thanks for that setup. We all know about the demographic cliff, and we've been experiencing this. It's happening now. It's still got a few more years before the real big cliff hits. We've seen this impact small liberal arts campuses in the Northeast, and that trend is swept to the West. And we've even seen that here in Northern California, where because of the falling enrollment, some smaller campuses are merging with larger universities. Some are frankly even closing. And so we started examining that trend. And here in California, we haven't been as impacted quite yet, but it's coming as well. But we started thinking about, where are there additional learners out there? We all know about the graduate market, which I think is still huge market potential, not just at the undergrad. So universities have to kind of move beyond the 18 to 24-year-old student population and open up their minds to view the wider world. But going back to the re-engagement, we started looking at some trends. And Dominguez Hills, like I said, we're primarily a first-gen campus. A lot of folks that come here, this is the first college they've ever attended. What we started to look at was a lot of folks over the years, like at many universities, they stop out or drop out. We like to use the term stop out. And we started looking at our records and we said, you know what, there's a potential here. We've got to find a way to bring these students back. We don't know what happened or why they stopped out. So we actually conducted a listening session. This is right before COVID hit. So in December of 2019, we went through our records and we invited about a dozen students that had stopped out from various programs, various ages. And we said, come back. We're interested in listening to you about why you stopped out. And Angela, the stories were heartbreaking. Some people said, I lost my job, or I'm a caregiver. I have small children. I'm divorced and I'm taking care of aging parents. I'm not making this up. We had one person that said she was kind of the working poor, and she called herself that. She was living in her car. And she said, school wasn't, I couldn't afford it. I had to stop out to make a living so I could try to, find a place to live. And so again, the stories were heartbreaking. But then when we invited them to this listening tour, they said, thank you for inviting me. I was embarrassed that I stopped out. I'm so glad you want me to come back. But then the second part of the question is how do I come back? I'm not a new student. I don't want to go back and reapply. I'm not a transfer student. I was already at Dominguez. And so we looked at our records and we went back about 6 years. And so we recruited about 8,000 students that we had found out that had stopped out. Of that, we had 1,792 apply. We admitted 1,334 and we enrolled 824 students. And that's all in the span of 2 years. And we call it the Once a Toro, Always a Toro re-engagement program because we said, even though you stopped out, you're still, and a Toro is our mascot to be clear on that. We said, look, just because you stopped out, we want to help you come back. So we hired a woman, Dr. Sabrina Sanders, who was a dynamo, and she really was a one-person army, an army of one. And she was embedded in our office. Again, we're the test kitchen. We were asked to pilot this. And we embedded her in our office and we gave her all the support structure that she needed, and our team helped. And we started, again, reducing administrative barriers to help folks come back. We eliminated the need for an application. We said, look, we'll help you find scholarship opportunities. Some students or learners, Angela, only needed 2 or 3 classes to graduate. And so we finally identified resources. We started doing a concierge style model of saying, you know what, we're going to walk you over to financial aid. We're going to help you with career services. And we did this hand holding, and it goes back to the customer service philosophy. But it was just remarkable when I mentioned how many students we enrolled in a 2-year cycle, 824. We all know there's about 40 million adults in this country that have some college, no degree. Here in California, we have about almost 7 million people. Huge potential market. But we have to change the mindset of how we bring these students back. They cannot come in as a freshman or first year student or a transfer, and they can't come and sit in a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 8:50 or Tuesdays and Thursdays 10 to 11:30. So we're offering more classes in the evening. We offered more courses online, of course, and we're trying to make it more convenient. And I hate to use the cliche again, or the term, but again, meet the student, the learner where they are. So wildly successful. I would encourage any university administrator listening to this, look at your re-engagement pool, go through your records, look at the folks that have stopped out, bring them back, find out why they did, and then build services around them, wraparound services to help them come back. Because it goes back to what I said earlier. Once you bring them back, it's not transactional and say, okay, congratulations, you graduated, see you in 40 years, and join my Osher Lifelong Learning Institute Continuing Ed for Seniors program. I want them to come back time and time again for upskilling and reskilling. And as you and I talked, education traditionally is very linear. It's K through 12. You go to college, you work a 40-year career, and then you join community ed. Well, as I've mentioned to you, it should look more like a heart rate monitor. They should interact with us up and down over that 40 or 50-year career. And again, I want to be top of mind. We can do the same thing with the re-engagement population, meaning once we get them here, they might be interested and say, I'm going to come back and earn a master's degree because you Dominguez Hills reached out to me. I'm going to be loyal to you. I'm going to come back. Or I'm going to take some training classes through Kim's Continuing Ed College. However they want to come through, we'll be glad to have them come back.
Kim, in everything you say, I'm hearing this idea about the customer service experience. So often in higher ed, we're talking about learner engagement and engaging the learner and creating an engaging learning experience. But before we get them in the classroom, we have to get them, right? We have to get them engaged with our institution. And you are just giving such great advice about how to provide that customer service experience so that they want to be part of the organization. And so it's not transactional, it's building a relationship with that customer first. And then we can get them into our engaging learning experience where they will want to come back. Something else that you and I had talked about that you started to touch on is that idea of alumni returning and engaging with the school throughout their career and throughout their lifetime. Talk about some of the things that you have done with your program to re-engage those alumni and some of the specific programs that you've created for that population.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And I want to touch back on one thing too, is that I went to a public-private partnership conference in Denver in September, P3 conference. And I heard a president of a small campus speak there. And I loved what he said, going back to it kind of fits into this whole theme we're talking about. He said, you know, we all have online programs. We have national reach. We have students all across the country. But he goes, what's important to me as the campus president, and this is him talking, he goes, you have to own your backyard. And that's absolutely true. You have to serve your local customer base and your local students. So the things what we do with our alumni, work very closely with our alumni office and career center. They share their email list with us frequently, and we don't abuse it, but we do market to them frequently. They said, hey, you earned your undergraduate degree. Why don't you come back and earn your master's or take some short courses? And one of the ways we used our alumni population successfully, we launched a brand new, and people would argue it's a very competitive field and it's kind of a Me Too program, but we launched a new master's in accounting. Now, we had the option of offering it online, but we said we're going to try face-to-face Tuesday evenings and Thursday evenings part-time for the working professional. So we did a marketing campaign, but in addition, we found out through the school, working with the School of Business and the alumni office, the accounting program at the undergrad level is very popular. So we started marketing heavily to them. We went back into the archives about 5 years and reached out to that students that have graduated with an accounting undergrad and said, hey, we have a new master's degree. You're probably at that point in your career now. You're looking to move up, start your own business, become a CPA, and you can sit for the CPA exam with this program. We were very successful, and we just launched the first cohort this fall with about 40 students. And it was primarily marketing to owning our backyard, to a lot of our students. We had a few folks within the LA region that were within driving distance that want to come to campus. And so we're very successful with that. We do that a lot too. And one of the other ideas I've been toying with for alumni is to have a subscription model whereby from a smaller menu of courses, when they can subscribe to us and subscribe to my college and say, you know what, I'm interested in that construction management class or that digital marketing or your esports certificate. So from a smaller menu, and for those of you in California know, the In-N-Out burger menu is it's very Spartan, but that's all you need. And so I wouldn't offer what I also refer to as the Cheesecake Factory menu, if any of you know, that is huge. And then you get the paradox of choice, right? People freeze when they say that's too many things. But for the subscription model, I'm looking at offering a small menu of courses to our alums to say, pay us a monthly subscription fee like your Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, Paramount Plus, whatever a person watches. And you get to choose whatever you want from this menu to come back and pick up an extra cert. Again, it's just to keep that engagement. So we haven't done that yet, but I'm fleshing out that concept of a subscription model with a smaller menu, like an In-N-Out burger, not the whole 50 or 60 iPhone of higher ed, but from a smaller menu that's manageable. So we're looking at that model.
Such an innovative idea. And again, when I think about engaging adult learners, just to be able to really quickly pick and choose a program. And one of the things that you and I had talked about was this idea of how short courses are more nimble. So they're more doable for the learner, but they're also more doable as a course creator, right? As an instructional designer, as a program creator. And they really serve the learner. I wanted to just share a couple of things that you and I had talked about. And the idea is you're serving these adult learners and returning learners. The idea that you made some changes to how we traditionally think about education, that you a shorter time to completion and not requiring a thesis. If you could talk a little bit more about how you incorporated, I would say, more adult learning ideas instead of forcing adult and returning students to take that, we think of traditional college course and what's required of us when we're 18 to 22, and how you adapted in some innovative ways for those adult learners.
No, thanks for that. And I want to back up on two things, because you made me think about one of our, and I'll segue into the degree programs. But during COVID, as we all had to pivot, we actually kept plowing forward. We thought we were going to take about a 20% enrollment hit when COVID hit. And we didn't stick our heads in the sand like an ostrich. And so we continued to market. We continued to do webinars. We shifted all of our marketing to these info sessions online. And during that time too, we thought, there's an opportunity here, unfortunately through COVID, but there's always opportunity in case of chaos or crisis. And so we developed two very short, like you said, we worked with a couple of faculty experts. So we developed two very short certificates in like less than 30 days. One was emergency planning for small businesses post-COVID, because a lot of small businesses didn't know what to do in a crisis like this. We're not talking major corporations, but we're talking a small mom and pop manufacturing site here in Carson. And we did that. It was a 2-day online workshop for them. Another one we did was managing a remote workforce during COVID. Again, a lot of these smaller businesses had never managed a remote workforce. So we worked with our HR program instructors. They put together a 2-day program. We marketed at a relatively inexpensive price, wildly successful. So you're right about the nimbleness and being able to develop to meet the immediate needs through crisis. Going back to the other, the degree completion or the degree programs, we started several in my time here, and I've worked at other institutions too, professional master's degree. And what I mean by that is the typical 10-course, 30-hour degree for the coursework, and no option, a thesis, no thesis at the back end. Because a lot of the folks that take my programs want to complete the degree quickly. They want to get it. They want to apply it at work. We have a Master of Science in Quality Assurance. We have an MS in Systems Engineering, Cybersecurity. A lot of these folks are not traditional students. They're already working. They want to advance their career. So the 10-course, 30-hour model, and we've shifted to a comprehensive exam for many of these programs. And you have 2 chances to pass it. And a lot of people are now choosing that option because, again, a lot of people, as you know, get stuck in thesis hell, and pardon my French, but they are fantastic students. They knock out the courses like that. These are very smart people. They get stuck on the thesis piece. May not be the best writer or understand academic writing. Now, we still have that option, and a few people do take it, but very few folks take the thesis option. We figured out that the mean time to graduation in the part-time program is about 2.9 years in most of our master's degrees, which is getting these folks into industry, working faster. And again, this isn't a watered down degree. It's rigorous as any other. The exam is rigorous. It's built by our faculty. They're the ones that come up with the questions. And we had one person, I won't name the program, in all this time, in the last 2 years, we've implemented this, that actually did not pass the exam after 2 attempts. So we had to think, okay, what could we do for this person? So we gave them a certificate of completion. They didn't get the master's, but we said, this certifies that you have completed the 10 courses. And of course, we gave them some micro credentials and digital badges to showcase that. But we thought that's been very helpful. And every master's program I've ever started here fits that model of a 10 course, 30 hour, like you said, short course. Time to completion has to be quicker. Most employers can't wait 5-6 years for an undergrad to graduate and come to work for them. They need it. They need them now.
Mm-hmm. I love this idea because where I did my master's, they also offer options, right? I was able to write a white paper instead of an academic paper. A lot of people do projects that they can apply to work. People even start new businesses because of we call it the Capstone Project instead of a thesis. But I think having those options as an adult learner and that we're able to apply them to our jobs or use our jobs for those projects instead of writing an academic thesis. It feels like relief as an adult learner, but it's also so practical, right? I'm getting to contribute to my job while I'm in school. And this project is going to be really practical and going to serve others instead of just being a research paper. So I think this is such a great idea. All right, before we go to our next break, I want you to tell us about the success of your OSHA program that you started over the pandemic and how that has turned into its own big thing.
Yeah, thank you. The OSHA program, it's very successful. It's a traditional occupational safety and health program, very robust. But our college or our university is one of only 26 OTIECs in the nation. And OTIEC stands for, and this is typical government jargon, so it's a mouthful. It stands for the OSHA Training Institute Education Center. So while there are a lot of places to take OSHA training, we're one of only 26 that have met this higher standard of quality and expertise and experience with the instructors. Well, same thing with COVID. What happened was I have 11 classrooms in my facility. OSHA folks come to class 5 days a week, 8 to 5, get their certificates and their training. When COVID hit, like everybody, we all had to pivot and move everything online. Well, the Department of Labor that oversees OSHA programs said, we're not such big fans of online. Let's just put everything on pause. We'll get through COVID. We'll come back face to face. Well, that really impacted, as I mentioned earlier, the potential to really hit us on our revenue stream, and we were not able to offer any of these courses face to face anymore. So we made a proposal to OSHA once we realized that COVID wasn't going away in a month or two. And they said, we will let you pilot or be the test kitchen of this model. So we offered an online modality. We were able to do it by Zoom, so it was synchronous. It weren't a full-blown instructionally designed online course. It was the instructor would come to our classroom, turned it into a little mini studio like we're doing here, lights, camera, everything. And the professor taught the same way with a technician in the classroom, and then we would broadcast this out. And we had a few speed bumps early on, but it started to gain traction. And then we started to expand our audience base because, again, with the congestion in the LA market, folks would say, I'll drive 15, 20 miles, but beyond that, it's too far to come to. Well, when we moved to the Zoom modality, we started getting folks from San Bernardino or Sacramento, all over the state of California because they were able to take the class that way. So we proved the proof of concept with OSHA. And now that we're back after COVID, we're still allowed to do this, but we're doing it in the same dual modality. So we have a fair amount of students that come to class. They're better learners by sitting in the classroom. So we have about 8 to 10 students in every class, but we're still offering it via Zoom. So it's helped us expand our enrollments that way as well. So we're very, very proud of that. Again, it wasn't easy, hit a few speed bumps early on. And then other OTIECs have also followed that model. When we started with the pioneers, broke that mold. And now a lot of them are now going into this dual mode of partial face-to-face, partial online.
It's great to hear, again, that you were able to be that test kitchen and pioneer this program. One of the things we're big on at the BAB Group is this idea of education for all and accessible learning. And when we can offer students options, you learn better face-to-face, you can't make it face-to-face. You can only do this program if it's online. If you have that option, it opens it up to more learners and learners that would really benefit from these programs, or it can really benefit their workplace by doing these programs. So another great example. All right, when we come back from this 30-second break, we are going to talk a little bit more about being a self-supported school and get Kim's advice on how programs can position themselves within their universities.
This episode of DigitalEDU Dialogues is brought to you by the BAB Group. The demands for teaching and online learning are constantly evolving. Don't get left behind. Carve out a competitive edge and give students engaging learning experiences with support from the BAB Group's team of course design experts. As experienced online faculty and instructional designers, the BAB Group knows how to craft those aha moments for students and meet outcomes for every modality, online, hybrid, and face-to-face, creating engaging, welcoming, and inclusive learning spaces for students of all ages and abilities has never been more important. Discover how the BAB Group can help you by visiting their website today.
I'm Angela Britcher, and I'm back with Kim McNutt. Kim, you talked earlier when we first started about being a self-supported school. And when you and I had talked before today, you talked about how you position yourself within the university system and how you do that strategically so that you can operate your unit as well as serve the greater school. So give your advice for other schools thinking about these options.
So when I first started here 9 years ago, well, as a self-support college, like I said, all of our revenue is generated by student enrollments, and it's across all programs over the 50 or 60. And so proudly I say, and I have to give credit, all of the CSUs, there's 23 CSU campuses in California. There's all a unit like mine or a college. So we're not unique in that regard, but we are unique across the country, I think. So we generate about $18 million a year in revenue, and we have a staff of 45. We have instructional staff, we have marketing, we have an associate dean, I have a budget officer, registration team. We're a self-contained entity, so we have about 45 staff and professionals. And again, we generate about $18 million. And so that pays my salary, it pays the electric bill here. We pay for everything. We get no services from the university for free. I get a tax bill at the end of every year of about $1.5 million that we pay back. But then it also gives the autonomy to develop new programs. Well, when I first came here, we had a pretty ample reserve. And one of the good news aspects of what we do too, none of our monies are scraped at the end of the year. The president doesn't come and say, okay, Kim, I see you have $4 million left over. We're going to sweep that into our general fund. So I get to keep the bulk of those funds for reinvestment. And so when I first came here a couple of administrations ago, we had a president that would come to us and say, Kim, I'm not going to take all your money, but we need some money to develop a new building. We need to build a new building on campus. We need some investment dollars to help us do this. And I used to then refer to us as the ATM of the university because the president or whomever would come and just withdraw money from my college. And I thought, there's got to be a better way because we also need to show proportional and reciprocal value back to my college. So I got to give credit to a provost that's been here 5 years now, extremely supportive, Dr. Michael Spagna. He gets what we do. And he sort of coached me. He said, Kim, I know you take umbrage when monies were taken from your college, for other activities. And he says, why don't you think in terms of being a force multiplier? How can you benefit the university? Yes, you're helping us build buildings, but what can you do to supplement the university? So I had an epiphany. And so I said, you know what, using that same banking analogy, I'm not going to start referring to us as the ATM. I call us now an investment bank. So when I talk to the president, the provost, other cabinet members, other deans that I partner with, I'll say, look, I'll put in some money. I will invest in this new program. And as an example, this new MS in accounting, we split a lot of the duties of who's going to pay for what initially. And then at the back end, we hope these returns will come back to us. And we generate memorandums of understanding between all of my campus partners. So it's very clear, what are my responsibilities? What are my expenses going to look like? And what is you as the academic college going to put in? And then how are those monies, when we become profitable, so to speak, how do we pay ourselves back? And that has helped us mightily, Angela, by just changing my mindset of, taking umbrage with saying, well, they're just taking money from our college, to saying, you know what, I'm the investment bank. We'll put in several $1 million into a project. It's going to benefit the campus. I'll be seen as a champion of the university. And so that has helped a lot. And that's been helped so much thanks to the provost. And now that the president has seen what we do, I'm now the only dean that sits on the president's cabinet because they see continuing ed through a lot of the work we do, we are the future of higher ed. How can we benefit the campus? So it's not the dean of the business school. It's not the dean of our nursing school. It's not the dean of arts and humanities. It's the dean of CCPE, is the only dean on the president's cabinet. So I have an audience. I get to report out on what we're doing, but I'm also there as a force multiplier. Okay, what can we do to help? And a quick example of that, we have a very fantastic campus partner program. It's an orthotics and prosthesis program. It's actually offsite in a community in Los Alamitos, which is about 12 miles from here because we didn't have space on campus. Well, we're going to move that program back to campus. It's a master's degree, and my college is being tapped to fund about $4 million in startup costs to build a makerspace for this unit to come back. And they'll utilize existing classrooms on the university. They'll use existing office. What they need are makerspace or bench space so that they can build the orthotics and prosthetics tools. This is going to be helpful for people with diabetes, people that may have lost a limb in an accident, or folks coming back from military service. But the beauty of this, bringing it back to campus too, I'm investing in the future because the LA is hosting the Olympics in 2028, but we're also hosting the Paralympics. So we think this can be a showcase, and our campus is going to be the site of a lot of soccer matches. We're surrounded by a lot of sporting venues here. We have a velodrome here for cyclists. So we thought, let's make it a showpiece. Let's bring them back to campus, and perhaps a big dollar donor may say, wow, I love what you all are doing with O&P. I'm going to write you a $50 million check to help do what you do. So once I got out of that mindset of an ATM versus an investment bank, it's opened up a whole new world. And now I'm seeing more of a partner to campus and a supplementer as well.
Yeah, that partnership idea, I think, resonates. And as we think about schools as they're moving forward and they're thinking about what's next, and they're thinking about, enrollment, as well as you talked about this idea of partnering with your community and positioning yourself in the community. You're going to be hosting the Olympics, and what a great opportunity to showcase the school and all of its opportunities. Give us any final thoughts, Kim, on where we're going with continuing education.
Well, Angela, first, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I could talk about this for hours. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to do this. I love this stuff. And as I mentioned briefly, I believe continuing and professional education units are the future of higher ed. People shouldn't fear and lament the demographic cliff. There are learners out there. They're just different types of learners. Again, we have to move beyond the traditional. Yes, they are important, and we still want 18 to 22-year-olds. But if administrators are concerned about enrollments, then look at your potential graduate population. Look at the non-credit space. Look at folks that may not need a degree or want a degree, but they need additional training for upskilling, reskilling, economic and social mobility. Be that go-to place. And again, look at us as investment partners in new programs. And as I mentioned before, once we stand up a program and it's successful, the CE unit, I get some money back, and I always say I can't use it to go buy a new Porsche or a Corvette. So I'll hire new staff. I'll hire new expertise. I call them opportunity hires. If someone leaves, I may not backfill that position the same. I can get creative on what is it that I need, but also invest in new programs, new infrastructure. I used, as I mentioned earlier, the dollars to remodel our registration office. But there are learners out there, even the lifelong learner. Look at the senior learner. So I just would encourage anybody listening or watching to not stick your head in the sand, not worry about student enrollments, continue to pursue the traditional student. But there are, as I mentioned with the re-engagement program, go through and look at your enrollment records and say, how can we bring these people back? What sort of services do they need that we can bring them back? And then you create loyalty and brand recognition, and they will thank you. As I mentioned, we had 51 people have already graduated that have come back through our re-engagement program. And you know what? They're going to come back time and time again. You just know it. They are so thrilled that we reached out to them. So we're building a lifelong relationship, not transactional.
Great. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing about the success of your programs.
Thank you.
The Digital EDU Dialogues podcast is brought to you by the Educity family of companies.